Xi Jinping doesn't want you to see this video, but China only has 10 years left before it collapses. This was a very bold statement made recently by a geopolitical analyst.
And we find out recently that the Chinese have jumped the ship, and this is their last decade too.
And it's a claim that's quite hard to believe at first, given how much the world has talked about China as the next global superpower. But Nightfall, what if this theory is not far from truth? Where exactly did China go wrong?
China might not be in a position to fund an invasion at this point because their economy is struggling.
And more importantly, if the nightmare prediction for China does become true, how is your country going to be affected by this? Here is why China is slowly running out of time. See, up to now, you might still think that China has a strong, massive population. But Zehan says this is far from the truth. Because as it turns out, China has been lying about their own numbers.
We now know that they've lied about their population statistics, and they overcounted their population by over 100 million people, all of whom would have been born since the one-child policy was adopted.
See, because of China's infamous one-child policy that spanned decades, fewer and fewer births have happened. And now China is home to the largest population of older people in the world. And that is a very bad thing for the economy. When you've got more retirees to feed than young workers to keep the country running.
For the first time in more than 60 years, China's population has fallen.
Worse, there is a Chinese cultural preference for boys. So now you are left with fewer future mothers to make that happen. But they are a massive nation. I'm sure the Chinese youth can save them, right? Well, that is another problem. Because if you look into the education system in China, it's also depressingly backwards. Most students rely on memorization instead of critical thinking. And because of their conservative culture, they would value uniformity and not asking so many questions just to save face. This is definitely not the best mentality to create future geniuses for progress. And they are not just ill-equipped. Now, many Chinese youth are also angry.
Fresh protests have broken out in major cities.
Just recently, many rare headlines have been surfacing of Chinese youth finally being brave enough to speak out against their strict government. It seems as if they're fed up with how their country has been run for so long. Which brings us to the other major problem about China, Xi Jinping himself.
Xi is so isolated himself. He doesn't want to hear anything except for what he wants to hear.
This expert believes that because Xi Jinping holds too much power and can never be challenged, the right amount of opposition and important discussions that could make China's policies better do not even happen anymore. In China, even their own billionaires can disappear in a snap. How can we expect this to be a safe space for growth? Worse, this show of pride extends especially beyond China. The One Belt, One Road strategy, for example, can turn out to be unprofitable. Basically, as you can see here, China has these many infrastructure projects all over the world. They're building a lot, but as it was recently found, the return on investment for investors is not doing well. Because for China, again, it's all about saving face. Except real data shows China won't win over US in terms of military. China is so far also losing to America in the race for technology advancements. And even other countries are starting to overtake its status as the hub that provides cheap, efficient factory work. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a glimpse of what China is struggling with right now and even more for the coming years. And if your country is highly in debt to them, if your country is dealing with China in any capacity in the future, expect that you will feel this impact on your life too. Now, let me be clear. This big, bold claim that China will only last for 10 years for now should just be considered a speculation. Because China faces these major problems doesn't mean it won't act to aggressively solve them. Till then, only time will tell what will really happen.